This is Data Science Collab. So I want to talk to you and have you hear from him himself about what it takes to land a top candidate. So Rico, if you could give us an introduction about who you are and your background so we can know who we're talking to today.
Hi everybody, my name is Rico, and I started working as what is called now a data scientist. I have a master's in biomedical instrumentation and I have another master's in electrical engineering. And then from then on, I just fell in love and I haven't stopped since.
So I want to kind of jump into what your experience was like when you decided to make a change to a new organization. So I guess maybe first tell me, where did you start when you were like, okay, I'm ready for the next step in my career?
So the first thing I did is I reached out to recruiters or people that I knew on the places that I was targeting. And LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, LinkedIn.
Open to new opportunities.
Open to new opportunities. Thank you.
So when you're looking, turn that on.
There you go. So I turned that on.
How many messages did you get?
And then I got a lot of messages. Some of them were really far off. Really far off. I don't think that they read, I think they read the summary and then they sent me a message after reading the summary. So I was like, come on, just like one more paragraph. Read one more paragraph on the bottom. But you made it a lot better.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Which is through, I guess, LinkedIn. I sent you a targeted message. I don't know if you recall, but do you remember what made you respond to my message?
I think it was the subject line and also because of the description was very in line to what I was looking for and also it was in the area.
Right. So do you remember about how many messages you got in that period when you had your...
More than 20 for sure.
Okay.
That was per week.
Yes.
Yeah, so total, more than 100.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a job is a full-time job.
Yes.
And then, especially if you want to do a real job matching, you want to end up somewhere that you're really happy with. It's not oh, I'm just going to go to whoever pays me the most.
How many, if you can recall, about companies were you interviewing with and were interested in?
It's at least 12.
Okay.
At least 12.
Yeah. So I guess, Rico, if you could tell us about some of your experiences that you had that was with a company, maybe you just had a really good process and that really stood out to you when you were looking.
Yeah, so if you have everything planned out ahead of time, it's very, very nice for the candidates because you have a set of expectations that are met when you go and meet somebody. So that process is very nice when it's really well planned out. Yeah. So you know exactly who you're meeting, what their background is, where they're coming from. And if you send candidates ahead of time, you say, okay, this day you're gonna meet with this person, this person, this person, this is their title, this is what they do. So it's important as a candidate to do your homework in terms of preparation.
Right.
So I would think having a plan, following through the plan, and making sure that you have detailed questions that reveal what that person actually knows.
So Rico, as a gold candidate, I know that you received multiple offers. Tell us about, maybe how many offers you got and ultimately what made you make the decision to end up at your current company.
So concurrently I had 4. So in total I had a total of 7. I made the final decision based on the fact that I would be really close to my family where I was and the money was really good. And also the type of work that I was going to do aligned with what I wanted for my career.
What advice would you give to hiring managers that are maybe currently looking to attract a top candidate like yourself? What do they need to offer? What do they need to do to be able to make sure that they can get someone in the door?
Make sure that you understand what it is that a candidate is really looking for, not necessarily what they tell you. So I would design questions that would reveal the situation of the candidate in the peripheries, more so than the questions that somebody from HR gave you. So if you have questions from somebody from HR, you ask those too, and then you say, okay, now I have my questions.
I think it's super important, and one thing that we always talk about in our office here at Focus GTS is the 6 human needs. It's Tony Robbins, he always talks about them, and we always try to discover that in our calls with their candidate, what's their need? Are they looking for certainty and security in a job? Are they looking for variety and the technical work that they're doing or the projects? So really trying to discover what it is that they want. I think too, oftentimes a hiring manager will decide it's a good candidate, but then they don't discover all their needs and what they're looking for, and they don't sell back to them why they should come work for the company. And then sometimes too, maybe candidates don't ask enough questions and they end up taking the job but end up leaving because they didn't make sure that it was the right fit.
I agree completely. And the thing is that I think it has to be broken down into different states, right? So you have a state that is, what is it that I need? I need somebody now, like tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is a very different state than I need somebody that's gonna take my business to the next level.
Right.
Those two things are not the same thing.
Yes. Maybe you need a technical person, short term, even a contract, and maybe you're not getting into all their life goals
right.
and but
it's like I need a freelancer.
Yeah.
Then you go to like TopTal or Gigster. There you go. You don't even have to worry about hiring anybody.
Yeah.
But if what you need is somebody that is a team member that's gonna add value to whatever it is you're doing, that's a different ballgame. You're playing a different game. And then that's when all these things come in. The person that's trying to hire someone doesn't understand whether they need a employee or they need a contractor or they need a freelancer. Those three things are not the same. It's important that the hiring people understand that, and it's important that the candidates understand what they're applying for.
Yeah, what we always do is, and I remember our first phone call, I'll have a sheet that I ask every candidate, and it's very important that I ask these questions and I ask them open to, like I ask you, what are you looking for? That way I don't assume anything based upon your resume, and you tell me, and there's so much information that I can pick up on based upon asking you those type of questions, and then ask follow-up questions based upon what you say. What is it gonna take for you to actually accept a position? Like, what's most important? Like, going through all of those things and not just what's your experience. Like, tell me
read your resume, please.
Yeah,
it's like I can read it myself.
Oh, okay, you do machine learning, you do Python, you do R, like check, score 8 to 9, how good are you? It's on your resume. So it's also, I'll ask you questions too, let you talk, and I can tell if I know what you're talking about, or if you give me one-line answers, then you're able to differentiate candidates who know what they're talking about and what, or more at what level they're at. Per se, I'm not a technical person, I can't judge those, but I think that's where the technical interview is so important, and matching the right technical person in those interviews. But then also when we get a job, we go through the same thing. We ask, what's most important to this role? What's a successful candidate gonna have done in 1 year from now? Like, what are the absolute essential things they need to do this position? Because if not, they might say that they have a need for a certain tool, and we'll ask them why. Like, what are they trying to achieve? So that a way we can be like, well, if they didn't have this, would you still want to see their resume if they had everything else? And then they'll say yes, so then you discover more of the need and what the job really is. So one of the things we wanted to ask you, obviously you've had the experience with us and other recruiters now, but what do you think that a recruiter typically does?
It's a technical matchmaker. It's somebody, depends, if it's internally hired for the company versus an independent contractor. I disagree. I think a recruiter internally hired for the company is biased because they want what is best for the company, not necessarily for the candidate. So I believe that independent contractors are better because they are trying to have a positive experience on both ends. Therefore, the incentive is there to perform. So I'm talking about independent recruiters. You're more of a facilitator to make a good match that is going to have the highest probability of success in the future.
Totally.
That'll be the nerdy answer.
Yeah, no, I like it. And it's so true because, it's in our best interest to find the best match on both parties from the beginning. And I think that's why it's so important to really understand back to those needs of each party.
I doubt that if I ever want to move forward, I'll go to the first person I'm going to be texting is you. So that's what I'm saying. So please don't change your number.
I'll let you know if I do.
Please.
There will be experiences where people have, not the greatest with the recruiters, but for me, it's like, I always look at it as a strategic partnership. Like, at the current company that you're at, it's not somewhere that I placed you, but at the end of the day, it's about relationships for me and strategically partnering with people in the market, because this space, although it's big, it's not that big. And as you get to know everyone, I'm here to help you at whatever point possible, even just to be a resource, what's happening in the marketplace, what are you seeing, and also how do you even retain your people? We're talking about the needs again. It's how do you keep your people happy? There's certain things that especially like data scientists are looking for. I mean, in humans, we all have needs, but certain things that really keep that top talent at organizations. So just always be a resource for the marketplace.
Yeah, it's very useful. It was useful to me, so I'm very grateful.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming into the Focus GTS studio. I look forward to partnering in the future together.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. It was a blast. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome.
All opinions, views, and other information that is done in this interview, whether expressed by me or anyone else, are that of the opinion of myself. I do not represent any corporation, company, or entity that is related to me professionally or otherwise. These are just my views, my opinion, and my experience, and they're solely mine.